I want to welcome to the District 2 Sports Podcast, head football coach of the Washington Lee Generals in his sixth year as a head coach and 16th overall with the university, Coach Garrett LeRose. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Good Monday in the office, getting ready for next week's opponent. But really happy to be on and get a chance to talk to you guys a little bit about WNL football.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate it again. I kind of want to start off with the season so far. You guys are 3-2. Played two difficult road games. Start the year off at Salisbury's a top 10 team in Maryland, and you travel down all the way to Texas to play Trinity. But you've kind of bounced back the last couple of weeks in ODAC play, and you're 2-0 right now. How do you see this the season so far?
Yeah, been really excited. I think after our non-conference schedule, I said it in the office to our coaching staff. I said I'm probably the most excited 1-2 coach in the country. Not happy about it, obviously, but knew we really had some good pieces together when we put the schedule together. We're about trying to make sure we're preparing ourselves for our ODAC schedule. So, getting an opportunity to play at Salisbury, that's a great test out the gate. They're having a phenomenal year. A lot of respect for what that staff does up there. Obviously, we have common philosophies. So I think that's a great way to start it off and test where we are a little bit. And then the Trinity opportunity, unfortunately, with Birmingham Southern closing, when that presented itself, philosophically really fits with how we try to build our schedule. I want our guys to get out there, play teams that are going to set us up for ODAC play and postseason play. I know there's always that two-pronged philosophy. Am I scheduling wins early in the year to get guys experience, or do I want to test my mettle a little bit and see where my team is? And this schedule came together really well to do that. Apprentice as well, a lot of respect for what that staff does down there in Virginia Beach. They've done a phenomenal job with that group. Oftentimes their depth is their biggest challenge at that school. But, their head coach, their OC, their DC, they really put together some challenging game plans. They've got a really physical group. So I knew coming in that 3-game stretch was really going to tell us a lot about ourselves and then give us some keys to what we need to adjust in a bye week. And our guys have responded well. They've trusted the course, and now we're ready to keep running through ODAC play right now.
Coach, I'm gonna ask a question while we're talking about the schedule as well. Gregory and I and brother Devin, we consider the ODAC the SEC of Division III. I mean, it's amazing. A lot of people would look at that conference and say, well, it is top heavy. And a lot of times it is. I'm a Averett grad, so I'll go ahead and let you know that up front. But it just appears to me that on any given Saturday, I know this is kind of cliche, but on any given Saturday, someone can beat someone in that conference. And the thing I'm looking at this schedule, me and Gregory just discussed this before you come on. How does it happen on just about everybody's schedule that you wind up playing 3 or 4 straight games of what we considered the Big Four or the Big Five or what? How does that happen? I noticed that, November 2nd, you play Macon. You go on the road to Bridgewater on the 9th, and then Shenandoah at home again on the 16th. How do you prep for something like that? I know you've already played a tough schedule, but how do you prep week by week for that?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit some things on the head here in the ODAC. I know we're consistently ranked kind of a mid-tier ranking by most pundits out there of what our league is. And I agree. I think the biggest thing about our league and what creates the parity is multi-pronged. The bottom of our league, even the guys having a tough year, it's just a byproduct of tough scheduling where we're located regionally, and then the parity within the league. And I think what people underappreciate, what causes a lot of that, we're not a league that's like everybody else, right? When we watch scout film, you're going to see, hey, everyone's in 11, 10 personnel. They're all doing fairly similar things. So week in, week out, it's kind of very Johnny's and Joe's, right? It's about matchups. It's everyone schematically similar. In our league, I mean, I think our coaches across the league do a phenomenal job of trying to put their players in positions to be successful. We sit there every Sunday, Monday as offensive and defensive staffs going, okay, what do we think they're going to do this week to us? We know this is structurally who they are, but I think our league does a great job of being very on top of who people are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And that's what creates such parity in our league is, it doesn't matter going into the game, someone's 5-0 or 0-5. The coaches do a great job of preparing their teams. And then each week it's something different. You can go from playing either a Randolph, Macon, and us, who I know we're all pretty committed to the run. Guilford traditionally in years past have been very pass heavy. Shenandoah has been like that a little bit, but each team evolves. Each year, you have some common names and faces as OCs and DCs, but at the same time, each year they're really catering to the personnel. They're recruiting to put some really unique products on the field. So I think that's a credit to the coaches. So I'll pat those guys on the back a little bit. And then the players in our league. I mean, you look across the league, whether it's getting some Division I bounce backs, developing younger players who've come in, they're 3-4 year starters. There's just a great depth of talent in our league, and really creative coaches of putting some different things out there. Where, like I said, you look around the country, you go to some different leagues, everyone's doing the same thing. So did you win in recruiting, whether it's some of the call them the state school leagues up to the Northeast? I'm a New Jersey guy, so you look at the NJAC, you look at some of those Empire Eights, or some of those Northeast leagues. A lot of similar ideas, similar ways of running things. You're an odd front, you do this, you do that. And each week it comes down to Johnny's and Joe's and executions of similar things. Here, each week, you better do your homework, buckle up, don't take anyone for granted, and get out there and compete. So I think that creates great parity in our league. I think that hurts us at times, and that's why people project us as being a mid-tier conference. But I think when we go out there and play in our non-conference game, we represent ourselves really well as a league across the board, and what we try to do and how we prepare our guys and how we execute. So a lot of fun to play in the ODAC. No weekends where you kind of go, okay, let's roll the jerseys out, guys, we're good to go, and look ahead. Every week's a trap game in the ODAC, so you better buckle up, know what you're going up against, and compete. So, and I don't think you can avoid those stretches of good teams, because that's where this question started. Everyone looks at a stretch in their schedule and goes, I don't think there's a single head coach in the league that doesn't have that feeling about some point in their schedule, whether it's the home aways or just the brand names that are represented there. There's going to be something that challenges every team in the conference schedule each year. But
well,
again,
you're being very humble right now, Coach, because listen, I kind of did a little research on what I considered, or we considered, the Big Four. So with this past weekend's big victory over Hampton-Sydney, 28-26, that makes you 4-2 against them. A little disparity with the Macon group, 1-4 right now. 3-2 against Bridgewater and 2-3 against Shenandoah, which makes you 10-11 against the Big Four. So nearly 500 in this league. Oh man, I don't know. You got to be ecstatic.
Just really excited. I mean, a lot of the credit goes. I think I always joke. I feel like I'm a lot older than I am in this league. Haven't been at WNL since 2003. So a lot of years of being familiar with this. As you know, back when I started, Averett wasn't part of the league. They were running around in the USA South with Coach Adams down there, who I got a chance to play for here up at Ferrum now, doing the AD thing. So a common face in the non-con though. So I had some matchups in Averett down at Salem Stadium. So when it really just comes to it, I think it's that parity in the league. I'm excited, but it goes to my coordinators, the players, the guys who do the preparation, and then we just got to compete every Saturday. Certainly in that 10-11, there's a good handful of decisions as a head coach I've made that I'd like back, but you got to move forward, press on. It's about this year. And so far that win against Hampton-Sydney, great win at home for us. And we just got to keep each week, stay humble, hungry, and on to Guilford this week, and got to make sure that we take care of business down there. Always a great environment. They do a great job getting folks out for the game. Always have a good time being down there. They create a great atmosphere with their tailgate coming up by the baseball field. So, our guys have to be prepared for a great environment and a great college football game this weekend.
Well, I'll go one step further with you, Coach, without giving away too much of my age. Averett didn't even have a football team when I was there. So just to let you know.
Hey, Coach, we always appreciate anytime Averett goes down. So just we can give Big Greg some flack. So, but you kind of hit it on this already. This next question I have for you, like we said before, those last 3 games, they're 5-1 combined right now. The next 2 games, they're 0-4. How do you keep your players, mentally and physically motivated and focused for these next 2 games?
Yeah, it's real easy. We can point back to the games we've played against these guys in the past, and kind of to your point, like you can talk about who are the big guys in the league, who've won championships, who are the traditional powers. But at the end of the day, we really understand who we are. So you got to maintain internal focus on what we're doing. We can point to a lot of years in my time here where the difference between 5-5, 8-2, 9-1, and being in the playoffs, is no more than 30 points here and there, right? And that's over the entire schedule. And I think our guys understand that, and those missteps, if you're not focused, again, on our process, what we do to prepare each week, then all of a sudden you can be sitting at home with the what ifs or what could we have done. So I think our guys understand that, and we've got guys on staff. Coach Raposa, our OC, played here back in 2003. A lot of guys who institutionally understand that, and you can look at all those teams that have had success. Very rarely is an ODAC conference champion truly dominate a 10-game schedule, and particularly a 7-game ODAC schedule. That hasn't happened very often since maybe I'll give credit to the Bridgewater late 90s, early 2000s, right? Hampton Sydney had a couple runs back then with, J.D. Ricka, Conrad Singh, some guys I hate to admit I still remember their names, but they had some guys there. Those teams, did some things that were really impressive in the league. But really, since those days, the margin of that success in our league is always very narrow. And I think that makes it pretty easy to keep our guys focused on each individual game, knowing those last 4 can only be as important as we want them to be if we take care of business each week getting to them. So I don't think that's lost in our guys. We don't look too far out beyond anything. We've got to take each step one at a time to make sure we can make those games be as important as we want them to be.
Well, Coach, I just want to also talk about this season so far. We know that your bread and butter is rushing the ball. You rushed for over, I think, 1,600 yards so far this year. I looked at your stats. You have 6 players over 100 yards rushing already. Jacob Romero, I think, is leading the charge with 520 yards. Just last week, he was 25 for 148 and 3 TDs. But it seems like you have several players who all contribute, at different points. I've seen Ty Collins, he's there too, passing the ball and running the ball as well. I mean, you have several different people running the ball. What have you seen in your running back so far, getting downfield?
Yeah, I think what's been really exciting this year, that's really flip the script from last year. It wasn't last year, we had some injury issues, so we just didn't have the same depth. Some of these guys were on roster. They were just working through some things throughout the season, whether it happened in our early schedule or practice. So, I think there's some names this year who are in that, kind of 6 over 100 that, probably could have had an opportunity last year to impact a little bit more, just different circumstances. It's college football. So, but we have a firm philosophy here at WNL. When you're ready to play, it's our job to get you on the field and help you impact the game. I think our defensive staff, as much as our offensive staff, does a really good job of trying to be multiple and put guys in position to be successful. Recruiting pitch, if you will, when we talk to guys about coming here, they look at the stats, they know we're run heavy. But at the end of the day, you can go and look at, 5-10-year arc of the offense. We're going to run the ball, but what that looks like has got to be catered to who we have. Jacob's a really special player, but I'll go back a few years. Marshall Hollerith played the same position as Jacob. They're very different running backs. So how we get that production has to kind of adapt each year. But, I keep it simple. On offense, we're committed to running the ball. And then on defense, we run to the ball and tackle, right? Keep football simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Now, each year, your personnel is going to make that look a little different. Do we play 3 hands on the ground or 4 on our front on defense? On offense, are we really spreading guys out to run the ball because we think we can put horizontal pressure on them? Or are we inviting you into a phone booth for 4 quarters? Statistically, it would seem like it's that every week, right? Just from how many carries there are and things like that. But if you take the time to watch the film, we try to get to it a couple of different ways based on our strength. Do we have a tight end that can really move guys, or do we need to get some receivers on the field? So really a credit to my coordinators. They believe in that philosophy. And we're also big on, we're bringing guys to campus for a 4-year experience, right? It's about coming here and getting opportunities to compete. Division III, that's finite. So excited about the expansion of the playoffs this year. Our agreement with the Landmark Conference, just tremendous things that our league and the region's doing to try to give Division III football to players more opportunities, right? For a lot of years, it was 10 games guaranteed and, 32 teams out of the 240 making the postseason. So, I think we still value every week, but finding more opportunities to get guys on the field, we have to do that internally as well. We don't have the luxury of redshirt you for a couple of years, play on JV. We don't do those things here. If you're ready to play and impact the game, it's on our staff to figure out how do we package it, how do we get you on there. And we're just really fortunate this year. We think we have really 6 to 8 guys in the backfield that we can feel confident giving the ball to, a couple of guys in the perimeter. Their stats don't jump off the page, but Andrew Bland's a dynamic player out of the Richmond area. We think Ian Evans out of North Carolina is doing a great job on the perimeter for us. Teddy Sparrow, guy out of Texas, is a vertical matchup issue. Now, we haven't had to get to a lot of that. We're going to start where we start and establish our run game. But even within that, Anthony Crawford, almost you had to use his nickname T-Time. I'm like, man, I don't know the last time I called him Anthony. But he's a very different back than Jacob Romero. They play the same position, they run the same plays, but it impacts the defense a little differently. So just really challenge ourselves every week, make sure we're doing our homework, ourselves out to get guys on the field and give them a chance to impact the game and keep us fresh through that. As we've noted a lot, very tough ODAC schedule. You're going to have to rely on a lot of guys to get through the year. rarely do the 22 starters in the ODAC make it 10 games playing every meaningful stat. So we want to make sure we have guys prepared to impact games over the course of the season.
Coach, it sounds like you're excited on both sides of the football. And, I make it very aware to my boys here that I will sit down and watch a 3-0 game, a 9-3, 7-0, whatever. I will watch the defensive game. I love it. I do. I love it. And I just got a kind of a twofold question. I know that I might miss a name here or two, but Jaden Todd, 50 solo tackles, three tackles for loss. Brennan Stout, 13 solos, 28 assists, 2 tackles for loss. Will, and I'm not going to touch that last name, your other linebacker, 6 solo, 21 assisted, but he has 6 tackles for loss. That accumulated with this other thing that I'm going to bring up. I kind of watch these things because I know it's got to mean something to you, and I'll ask you what it means. But when you got a defense like that, and then you can run a guy like Marcus Gafford out on the field, and he's averaging 41.5 yards a punt with the longest 69, a couple over 50 yards. And then the big stat in my eyes is he's put 4 inside the 20s. So what does it mean when you can put a defense out on the field and then you got a guy that can flip the field for you? So does that mean you got a couple more third or fourth downs you can go for? You can play around a little bit with a couple downs, or what?
Well, I'd say it makes my job easier and harder at the same time, right? Because as a quarterback, everyone doesn't want to get all their calls checked on Monday morning. But when you have the luxury of saying, some years it's easier. Hey, our punter's not great. That's obviously why I go for it a lot on 4th down, right? Or, hey, if the defense can't stop the guy, that's why you're doing that. Or, hey, offensively, we don't have things going, so we punt it, pin them deep, and let our defense try to flip the field and get positive. We have the opportunity to do all those things. And I think one of the big things this year, we continue to challenge our guys. I still don't think we put it together. It's a nice part when you have all 3 phases, give you a chance to be really successful. But there's, been games where special teams, we felt like they could have performed at a little higher level. But, O&D was going pretty well that day. Or, hey, offensively, maybe we weren't, carrying our weight, but special teams and defense gave us a chance to stay in it. Or, hey, defensively, it took us a little while to get into rhythm, but offensively, we could pick up some first downs, deep, with our kicking game, make sure the field position stayed pretty positive for us. So it's a luxury to have all 3 phases, give you chances in different ways to impact the game. So, as a coach, you feel like you can make that decision pretty comfortably to say, hey, this is the right call because I know the result can be this, right? So I think it's a huge advantage. And, again, I think it's a big part, when you talk about those defensive stats, that's Brennan Stout right now playing great football. Only because one of our captains, Uno Christopher, has been dealing with the hamstring issue since Trinity, right? So it's that depth of talent, get guys on the field, let them run, let them be physical, and that puts ourselves in position to be successful there. We've also got 2 standout safeties. Statistically, probably not getting what they need to, but man, they get us lined up. They get us ready to execute at a high level, and that's a great safety blanket back there so those underneath guys can run around and make plays. Jay Todd's been maybe one of the, I think, underrated players in the league the last couple of years. Hugely impactful, but we've been a linebacker-rich league. When you look at some of the guys who have come out, not only for us, but Randolph Macon, Shenandoah, Averett, I'll give you a shout-out, Coach, with the Defensive Player of the Year there at the first level, impacting games. So sometimes it's tough to get the recognition because there's so many great players around, but just different guys ready to step up. And I think the big luxury on defense, focus on one of them. There's another 2 running around somewhere. So I think that challenges offensive coordinators in the league to find those guys that, it's just like DC. I had the chance to move back over to the offensive side this year, but you can neutralize one, but what are you giving up to take away one, right? And really, again, credit to our guys putting themselves in position to be successful. Marcus has done a great job as a first year in the kicking game for us. Definitely was a bit of a question mark coming into the season for us, but he really quickly erased that for us to make us feel pretty good about that aspect of our kicking game, what he does on place kicking, and then. I always joke, Michael doesn't probably love some of our philosophies. It's 4th and 2. Anywhere in the plus is a pretty aggressive down for us. So guys who have attempted to put 3 points up don't necessarily get a lot of chances. But he's got a big leg, and he's a guy that I trust at the back end of a game. He doesn't get opportunities because I don't trust him. He doesn't get opportunities because of who. So he knew that coming in, though. He knew that when we recruited him, but he's prepared to help us win games as well. So luxury for us to have that. Probably the only thing that does for me is when it doesn't work, I do have to look in the mirror and go, man, those other pieces are pretty good too. So did I put my guys in the right position there? But fortunately, they step up to the plate to make me look pretty good often.
I know I'm going to sound hypocritical here, but, we just talk about defense, and I sit there and I look at Gregory brought up rushing the football this year. It's not just this year. I mean, I look back and some things really stand out. In 18, you're fifth nationally rushing offense, 315.7 yards per game, 33.4 points per game, 30 or more points in 7 of 10 games. In 22, you're first in the ODAC in rushing yards a game, 273, rushing attempts, 574, and second in rushing at 2,732 yards for the year. Now, this other stat, I wanted you to see if you could confirm this or what, but in 2015 and 16, led all college football in rushing. And my question is that D1, D2, D3? Is that what that goes along with? If so, that's awesome.
We were very fortunate that year. That was a year where we had it at all levels. We had to dial in towards the back end of the season, check out what Harding's doing, some of the academies, Springfield, obviously, Salisbury, some other programs that just jump right off the page. If you're into your research on rushing offense around the country, you got some out there on the West Coast, some D2 schools that do some pretty good things. Some of them have transitioned away from under center triple, some of those types of things. But yeah, we're really proud of what we do. Like I said, I say it all the time. I've been very fortunate to put together some really good staffs here. Been on some very good staffs as an assistant coach here. Learned a lot of football from my mentors. And, what I say above all things, I don't know necessarily when it comes to running the football, if we're coaching, we're any better than anyone else. I just tell everybody we're just more stubborn than everyone else. We do what we do. We have an unwavering commitment to it. One of those years I think you highlighted, I go back to, I think it was in 2019. We also had the number 5 receiver in the nation in yards per catch who had 700-yard games. So I don't want to act like we're not willing to do some other things. But, again, I think it's a credit to the OCs that I've had the chance to be around here. Again, it just all comes back to understand who you are and what you do. So we're grounded in a philosophy, but then we don't have the luxury with our recruiting here. We're a top 25 school nationally. I can't sit there and go, hey, my running backs need to be 6 foot tall, 205 pounds, run a 4.6. No, we got to go find good football players. Our O linemen, they don't need to be 6'3", 280. They gotta be able to move people. They got to be athletic. So we try to identify talent. We try to find pieces that impact games. Right, that's the key in our recruiting process, and hopefully that shows in the numbers how it resonates on Saturdays. Defensively, it's the same thing. We're not sitting there going, hey, we're 4.25, we're 4.3, we're 3.4. We're finding good football players and put them in positions to be successful. Again, grounded in philosophies, but then challenge yourself to grow each year with the 85 guys you got this year, the 25 new ones you're bringing in to round out a 90-man roster, and do your very best job as a staff to put those guys in a position to be successful and make game day easy for them, let them run and make plays. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. Some of the mentors I have, you can look at what they're doing elsewhere. In recruiting, it's tough, but I got to tip my cap to him. Davidson down there in North Carolina do a lot of similar things to us. A lot of guys I've worked with for a long time over the years. We trade some notes to make sure we're all sticking on the same page. It's some things that we can do, but be rooted in who you are, know who you are, be firmly grounded in who you are, but be willing to adapt a little bit each year to put your guys in position to be as successful and celebrate their talents. Don't force round things into a square hole.
Right.
Find guys, put them in position, give them opportunity, and hopefully that leads to good things on Saturday afternoons.
Well, I noticed one thing, and me and Gregory always talk about the rosters and stuff like that. So I just kind of looked at your roster and noticed that you recruit all over. I mean, up and down the East Coast, I see that I think I counted 20 different states. Out towards Houston, Dallas, Austin, and then Gregory would be tickled with this. I don't know if he's looked at it yet, but I think you've got 3 kids on the team from Jacksonville, Florida, and that's where Gregory lives. So he keeps up with stuff like that. But I think that's very interesting. But I also see where you actually have a territory that you recruit from, which is Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Nova, and then I got to ask you about this one. How did you arrive at taking Tampa? Is that the vacation spot, or how's that?
I'll start first and foremost. We don't physically recruit Texas, so we don't get to make the trip down there. Actually, currently, we've shifted around our recruiting areas a fair amount. So it's really a lot of it's responsive to where we got guys from. We may have a $2 billion endowment, as shocking as it may be at the Division III level. That's not funneled towards football. That's towards why we can get those guys from 20 some different states. It's about the academic experience here. So I'm just really fortunate as an alum. I'm obviously incredibly biased, but at the same time, I think anyone who works somewhere should be incredibly biased as well. But we just have such a wonderful institution here. What we do for our graduates in terms of setting them up for the next phase of their life makes it really easy to recruit here. We can talk about the football success we've had. I'm very proud of that. But what I'm more proud of is the academic experience, the social experience, and the way that we try to prepare our players and our students for the next phase of their life. So with that, it makes it really easy for us to go out there and recruit nationally. Being a top 25 school in almost every major publication you can find out there from an academic side forces us to go out there and cast that big net all over the country. We want to be a reflection of our university, not just a reflection of an athletic department, right? So certainly you have a lot of schools, they'll draw their 4-hour circles and just, put a lot of rubber to the road in that circle. We know if we do that, there is plenty of good football here in the state of Virginia, North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, go up to the DC, kind of that central Pennsylvania. We can certainly find the talent there if we need to. But we also want to be a reflection of our university in everything we do. So we want to represent them well, and in the way we compete and the things that we take here, whether it be our honor code, our SJC here, the way that we carry ourselves as a community, we want to be reflective of that. So to do that, we better recruit that way too. We better have football players that represent our entire student body. So our admissions staff as a whole does a wonderful job of every recruiting year, it's like, okay, the 48 states in the incoming first year class of 470, hey, what two did we miss this year? Right. So we've got to go out there and be reflective of the university. That's the way we carry ourselves as a program. That's the way we promote the academic and social experience that we provide here at WNL. So our football team needs to mirror that. So we go out there, we put the work in. I've been very fortunate, to work for some coaches that trusted me to recruit all over the country. I always say I'm originally from New Jersey, but I sure have lived here in Lexington for a long time. So developed some syntax. I know how to say y'all or you guys, depending on which side of the line I'm on.
There you go.
Heading north. So, but our staff does a great job getting out there, identifying talent, and making sure they understand that, hopefully we provide them a great opportunity to win some football games, compete for championships. But more importantly, we're invested in them as young men and developing them for what's next. And again, myself, our OC, as both alums here, hey, I want great future fellow alums. I want people that will go out there and represent, the education I received, the community that I was part of the right way. So that's an important part of our vetting process as we put our team together. So yeah, we got those bowl school guys here out of Jacksonville. That's always a strong place for us to recruit. We don't take the trip down there, but we try to get our guys out there recruiting the places that we know are good to us, but also do our homework. The great part of today's world, get on Twitter, get on social media, get out there. You can find people. When I first started, we still had our VHS and DVD libraries of recruits. If we wanted to go do an eval, we had to flip through a spreadsheet and find that. It's a lot easier nowadays. So if you're willing to put the time and effort in, let's go out there. Let's sell everything we are here, not just the football program we are, and let's get people here that can impact us. And I think it just really improves our roster too. We find time to make sure we don't just talk about academics and football. We bring our group together in a lot of intentional ways so we can learn about people from different spaces. Frankly, that's what drew me down here from New Jersey. I could find everything I wanted to in that 4-hour circle, research schools, big schools, small schools, liberal arts schools, state schools. But the community down here is really what sold me, and that staff that was here. And we're just trying to carry that on in what we do as a staff now to represent ourselves the right way and represent this university the right way.
Well, I think you guys do your job very, very well. And I know that campus and those facilities actually sell themselves. And the reason why I go another step further with that, I talked with my good friend today. His name is Lee Abercrombie. He's an alum. He was a wrestler there from 91 to 95. And he just let me know, back then he told me all the time what a wonderful, beautiful campus that is up there, what a nice town it is. Just, of course, he's a Danville boy, but just getting away from Danville, that would be his second home. He also brought up a statistic that he said needed to be tested. So I said, well, I'm interviewing Mr. LeRose today, so we'll see if that's true. He says that he was a member of, and I'm gonna spell it out because I don't know if you say Fiji, but FIJI. And he says at that time, they were the only fraternity that did not wear ties to the games. but he didn't know if that was still going on today, that you might be able to comment on that.
Oh, I mean, we certainly earn some of those stereotypes from time to time on campus. As I said, we're trying to prepare our guys for the real world. So every once in a while, there's got to be a cocktail party with a shirt and tie. We certainly know how to let it down at 10 o'clock. There's a time and place for everything. But certainly, even from my time here, some of that shifted a little bit. I think the university certainly did have its wine and cheese, and I've definitely heard that from some of my opponents in the ODAC on game day back in the day. But I think we've got just a little bit more diverse campus population, and it's loosened up a little bit. So, like I said, we used to joke about the WNL uniform. You got to have your boat shoes, your shirt and tie on when I was a student here. So he's not speaking the wrong way. But I knew a lot of Fijis in my time. They certainly, I'll give them, they might have been stereotyped as a bit of a jock house when back in the day, but we've moved away from some of those things. Stereotypes exist sometimes for a reason, but I think our campus culture has shifted a little bit since our days here to be a little bit more geared towards a lot of the athletic success we're having as well. So I'll pat my fellow coaches and department on the back too. Those commissioners cups, they come here and they spend a lot of time here in Lexington. And I think, our student athlete population floats right around 25 to 30%. So I think we impact the campus in a very positive way to have a few less ties on game day nowadays. I think we've got a good group of athletes running around supporting each other, and it makes for a pretty good Saturday afternoon in Lexington, whether it be at our stadium, up at the field hockey game, the soccer teams. A lot of success in our department, and I think that breeds the success that we have, for all of our programs here on campus and what they're doing.
He and his wife run a physical therapy clinic here in Danville, so I see him quite often. So he's a super guy, heck of a wrestler back in the day. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
No, this is the last one for me. I just want to talk about your, being the head coach there, getting the job. So I believe at the end of 2017, Coach Abel leaves for Davidson after a good career there at Washington Lee. University goes through a hiring process. I believe there's like 90 plus applicants. You do 4 interviews on campus, and you're one of them. And I believe your pitch to the university was, I was here, before they were winning all the ball games. They were 3-7 your freshman year, and through your 14, 16 years, I think you've been a part of, I think 6 ODAC championships or 5 ODAC championships. So, how did that feel getting the job, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, I mean, that was a really challenging time for me and my family. My wife also, she played women's basketball here, so she's celebrating a lot of the success that program's have of late. But so, family very rooted here in Lexington, but developed some really strong relationships, obviously over about a 10-year arc there with a lot of those guys that headed down to Davidson. So it was a decision-making time for our family. Obviously, I think if you were to have asked 25, 6-year-old me as I began my coaching journey, where do you ultimately want to end up? I think even then I kind of knew the Division III philosophy, I think really fit, for me, what I wanted to do. It's about developing people. It's about something more than just the wins and losses. Let me be clear. My wife will confirm. I'm a very competitive person. So I'm not going to sit here and say that's not a big part of what we try to do here. And I tell my PE racquetball class, there's winners and losers in life too. So we got to learn those lessons. I think sport's a great way to do it. But at the end of the day, we had to make a decision as a family. Is it the right time and space to put my name in the hat for this and pursue being a head coach? And certainly here's a spot that I absolutely would have wanted to do it. But was I prepared to lead a place as a head coach that obviously I want to see have great success? And I felt like I developed under a couple different coaching staffs here. Frank Mariello, who I played for, and then Scott Abel coming in. Other guys, Gavin Colleton over the years. Brian Newberry here as the DC, Bert O'Neill, who's not in coaching anymore. Just a lot of wonderful people who I got to be around here and learn a lot about not just X's and O's, but, how do you develop young men? How do you interact with a lot of different people? And, my wife and I sat down and I think I really would have regretted not taking an opportunity to be in this position. So ultimately very thankful to Ms. Hathor and our AD to feel like this was the right fit. I think we're a very unique community. I think every campus believes that about themselves, and certainly having that institutional knowledge, I think, made it a little bit easier to kind of come in here and understand, here's what our strengths are. But I'm also one who believes that, the sky's the limit for this program. There's a lot of things that we can still accomplish. The ODAC that we've talked a lot about, the competition in this league. But, I'm a guy that really believes that with our facilities, the university are, the way that we do things, we can accomplish so much more and on such a higher consistency. So, I think that ability not just to be comfortable in some of the success that we had developed in my time here as a player and coach, and that's a credit to a lot of people on the field. I always joke, I was our holder. Do as I say, not as I do. I challenge our guys to be better than I was on and off the field in many ways. But I have a vision for what I think we can do here, and there's a lot of steps and a process to doing that. And I think our AD believed in that and understood. I wasn't complacent or confident in where we were. I also had a vision for where we needed to go. So I think that was really big. I think she trusted that I understood who we are, what our community is, and the emphasis in that academic and other part of the student athlete journey that I think is critical to have success here. Because if you get just too focused on X and O, I don't think you're going to serve our students holistically. There's other places where you have the luxury of doing that to a degree because it's in the university's model a little different, and neither is good or bad. It's different. I say that a lot in our recruiting pitches too. People are successful coming out of everywhere. So it's just what skills and tools are you giving them to do that? And I understand what our mission is here and what we try to do to develop people holistically on and off the field, so I can lean into that. But I also have high aspirations for what we can accomplish on the field. And let me tell you, our players would definitely probably verify this. There's 4 months out of the year where I'm pretty unreasonable on that and hold them to a pretty high standard. And they understand that, and they know that and embrace that through the recruiting process of what we're trying to do with some of the different stresses and challenges we have here. And that whole vision, I think, is what allowed our leadership here to trust that I could take it on. And, like I said, we're still chipping away at it. There's a lot we can accomplish here, and our guys are focused and hungry to keep working at that. And sitting at 3-2, we're going to keep chipping away at what we're trying to accomplish each year and trying to do things that haven't been done before. That's hard with the school, with the history we have. We played in the Gator Bowl, so there's a pretty high bar there. We've got some wins. I've got footballs laying around the office. We make sure we're constantly reminded of where we've come from. Wins over schools like UVA, NC State. Got a Princeton ball in my office since I'm from New Jersey, right? Those aren't things that are going to happen in the near future by any means nowadays,
Right.
But that's the tradition, and we need to build on. That's the past we have. So let's make sure we honor that and move forward with what we're trying to accomplish here as a program now here in 2024.
Well, I got a couple questions, Coach, and I'm gonna start it out with this, and I guess I'll ask the nice question first, or I'll give you the nice part of it first. I did a little research on Coach Garrett LeRose's classes that he teaches, and it seems like you're reaching out and you're making a big impression on some of these people. So I just wanted to, you might have already seen these, but I'll quote them anyway. Take his class. It's well worth it. Best decision I ever made. He is so helpful, funny, and nice. So you are reaching out to others that are possibly not students, but it's awesome to see things like this and people recognize excellence.
Man, I don't know where you found that, but no, I'll say my athletes give me a hard time, the guys on my roster, because we do have a physical education requirement here. So football is PE 201. They would say I have a little gentler touch with my 100 level PEs. However, I think I do tell them, and I joke all the time, my 7 and 10-year-old are ball boys right now for us. I believe you got to treat people the right way. You got to do things a certain way. So I try to treat everybody the same way. Again, a little gentler touch with my PE 100, but I bring my boys around the roster a lot because I think we have such wonderful people on our team and on our campus that I think they can learn and grow from people being on WNL's campus. But also our players, as well as my PE class every once in a while when I got a sick day with the sniffles and I have to bring the boys into a racquetball class, something. They also see I do treat my kids the same way as I try to treat them. So I'm just wonderfully lucky to get to interact with so many wonderful, not just student athletes, but students as well on this campus. And again, I do try to impact them, not just in how to play racquetball or how to do a bench press, but I think there's some bigger picture things that we can help young people with. So I always joke, we have a lot of other conversations. Ran into our wrestling coach in my racquetball class this morning because we had some good tunes rolling. So I'll give you a little anecdote here on that. My first syllabus today in my racquetball class, we do listen to music. I make it clear to them I want to listen to all kinds of different musics. The one thing they're not allowed to say is that they hate any of the music that comes on. We're a place of higher education. Music is art. Hating art is ignorance. So I do try to branch out just beyond how to run triple option and defend a 2-back set. So get to have a lot of fun there. And I think getting our coaches out there in front of our students in that format, I think also creates some tremendous support for our athletic programs here and our student athletes on campus, because they can appreciate a little bit more what those guys are going through, particularly the people that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis in leadership roles for them.
I think that's awesome. All right, so now I get to get your competitive juices going again, okay? So we have actually conducted a few interviews with quite a few of your coaching cohorts in the league, and the thing that we found out, and they've been to some symposiums, one of them by Andy Reid. So we got to put this to bed now. Who makes better coaches? Offensive line guys or the wide receiver, halfback / quarterback? So we keep hearing offensive line guys are the best coaches because they're kind of coaches on the field. So I want you to put an end to this.
All right. I received this wonderful education from WNL. So I'm going to answer that question without answering that question. Okay. So what makes the best coach? Someone who's committed. Whatever you do, and I say this all the time, if you want to throw it 80 times a game, be committed to it. And don't second guess yourself when in the 4-minute drill, you throw 2 incompletions and you got to punt it away. You're committed. You got to be committed, and you got to make sure your players understand your commitment. Now, what I also have always said as a coach, if it is Saturday night after a win, who do you want to hang out with? It is the offensive line. That is the group that's going to create the least amount of drama. They find the best spot in the room. They're going to have access to food and beverage, not too close proximity to any of the facilities. And there is no drama in that group because they got no stats to debate. They're just there to hang out and have a good time. So I think a great coach has got to be committed. But, man, I do love those O-linemen. As an old former high school quarterback, we all know who's in your wedding party, the guys who sacrifice for you up front. So I do have a special place in my heart for those guys. And my OCs the last 2 years have been those former O-line guys. But commitment is the number one thing that makes a great coach. You better be committed to what you do.
That's the perfect answer. I really commend you on that, Coach. And listen, I know Gregory's got a little skit he kind of pulls at the end that he's going to ask you, but I got to tell you, we've talked a lot about sports and your football team, but I know you've been very concerned, and you've had academic scholars all throughout your coaching career. So congratulations on that, because I always like to see that or say that coaches, I know you care about that, what's going on in the product that's on that field, but it also seems like you're very concerned about what the product is off of the field as well and in the classroom. So I commend you, and I take my hat off to you for that.
I appreciate that, and I'll give credit where credit's due to our AD, Ms. Hathorn. She makes sure we all know as coaches every year. She starts with making sure we remember coaching is teaching, and that's the most important thing we do. And all those lessons can come through sports. So she does a phenomenal job of keeping us humble, competitive, but also humble in all the big picture things we need to be taking care of for these young men and women on our campus.
Coach, I know we got to get you out of here, so we're going to do a rapid fire. It's kind of either or question. So 7 quick questions for you, okay?
All right.
All right. So we know that you are a QB, a running back, and wide receiver. Perfect situation or dream scenario, which one would you go pro in?
Ooh, quarterback.
Okay.
No question. I think that's why you become a head coach.
All right.
You want to have some control.
Well, you kind of answered this next one, I guess, but throwing the game-winning touchdown, rushing, or catching the game-winning touchdown?
However it gets 6 points on the board.
I like that. You play offensive side of the ball, but if you're on defense, would you be on the line, a linebacker, or would you be a DB?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go second level. Those guys rarely get blamed, right? It's usually a front line guy getting moved and then a safety missed the tackle. No one asked where the backers were supposed to be.
Would you rather play in 90-degree weather or 30-degree weather?
Ooh, originally from New Jersey, 30.
Really? Okay. All right. You kind of answered this question already, but undefeated at home or on the road?
At home. You got to defend the home turf.
Gotcha. Favorite football movie?
That's a tough one. I got a 10 and 7-year-old, so I'm going to lean into Little Giants.
There we go. I like that. I think we had someone else say the same thing. That's awesome. Yep. And then lastly, the big game for this weekend, not WNL, but on the on D1 level, number 5 Georgia at number 1 Texas. Who would you take in that game?
Ooh, I'm going to go with Texas right now. Not due to my personal feelings. I think I'm a momentum guy. I think they got some things going on. But yeah, that's going to be a heck of a ball game. But hey, I'm focused on Guilford WNL. That's the most important one, right? No doubt.
All right. Well, Coach LeRose, we do appreciate you coming on. Again, the head football coach at W&L there. Good luck to you guys on the season.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Coach.
Thank you,
Have a good
Coach.
one.
All right.